what is the easiest, least scary way to start using music technology?
Press record and start playing.
What, computer technology?
Well, that's been pretty non-specific, but in terms of where you would start, where you would recommend a starting point or something.
Yeah.
You can get free sequences now, can't you? Free DAWs, is it?
Yeah.
Audacity, is it that? Is that free? Things
Reaper.
like that? Or
The thing to do is to get a 4 or 8 way interface, plug your computer into it, so it's the same as your 4-track, but you now record onto a sequencer. And yeah, like some of them are free, but now you can edit them and play with them and then get into procrastination and then wish you had just your 4-track.
I do remember, it is kind of frustrating for when you start. I remember when I first bought Cubase and I couldn't get a sound out of it for a day and a half or something.
Man,
And it's like, it does get a bit annoying. Or like I bought an interface, but the interface, it turned out I didn't know what I was doing then, didn't have preamps, then I had to get a mixer and plug it into the thing. So there is a bit of kind of problem solving involved.
Although a lot of problems have been solved now, you don't have to worry about MIDI too much. And
Yeah.
I think it also helps to know what kind of music you want to make, because I personally believe that different DAWs have their strengths for different things. So if you're a beginner and you just want to record guitar and vocals, you need to look at buying an affordable audio interface that gives you a couple of inputs. Don't necessarily need any pricey monitor speakers straight away, just a half decent pair of headphones, and just make sure you've downloaded the latest driver for the hardware and install it. It's just an installer, because more often than not, problems that people face, like not being able to get audio out of their software, is just simple kind of having the latest software that runs the hardware. It's those kind of real simple things that can, because if people get setbacks too early on and it frustrates them, it can put you off. And the main thing is just having a list of 5 things that you need to do to get up and running, then just learning how to record audio into the software. And
without wanting to sound like a Mac snob, since moving to Mac, I don't feel like I'm fighting against everything anymore. I'm not.
It's true.
When you're trying to get audio stuff to work in Windows, you have to download drivers and there's hardware conflicts, and then Windows will appear that just go bing for no reason, and it's just a nightmare, and the sound won't work anymore. If you want the easiest route, a Mac is kind of a little bit easier.
Yeah, and if you've got maybe like an iPad or something, you can try like GarageBand on the iPad. Is pretty quick.
Or the new iPhone app.
Yeah, if you've got GarageBand or Ableton, and I'm sure that actually plenty of people doing this and calling it proper music, but they've all got these kind of loops. It means you can get a sound. You just load your drum loop, then your bass loop, and then you go, that sounds, I'll do my own bass next. But it's a good way to get started, I guess, to at least know that it's working.
I really think that iPad is, in terms of starting, is a really good place to start.
Does it come with GarageBand?
GarageBand? No, it doesn't, but it's £5.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it does an awful lot of stuff, and it's got it's got amp simulators in it. It's got
we
keyboards.
toured with the Ting Tings, and we talked about music tech every now and then, and their biggest song was recorded in GarageBand, and the hook from that song was a preset from GarageBand.
It does sound like it though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but it's quite cool.
The biggest ever GarageBand one though is it Vintage Drums number 3 or something, which is Umbrella by Rihanna. And there's another one which is it called In the Club or something by Usher?
Yeah.
They're both big GarageBand loops.
Oh.
Yeah.
And if you have to get the right tempo, it's quite good. Just
and you can
do it
literally,
yourself.
it's got a mic. You can literally just record at it. You can talk at it and record it.
Machine.
And there's a 4-track app for it. Tascam make a 4-track app, so you can just carry on.
Yeah.
From where you left off.
If you want to go further into like more professional sounding stuff, you will need preamps, and you will need monitors
and a decent microphone if you want to record guitar or vocals. If you want to record guitar or vocals, a dynamic mic isn't usually the best way to go. You want to get a condenser microphone, and that's when you need the interface.
Some people would disagree with that though. Some people would swear by. Is it called the SM7 or something? This Shure mic that everyone uses.
The Michael Jackson vocal mic.
Yeah, and if you go on, Gear Sluts, which is where to go if you want to read people talking about gear all day, every day. Basically, it's
I gave that up a few years ago.
it's a sign of like a regular visitor on there that they will say that the only mic they use is an SM7. It's like a sort of badge of honour on there.
I saw a great post there where someone basically replied, I bought one of these, I sounded about the same, you guys are rubbish.
But
The thing about music forums is that mob rule sort of occurs, and then common intelligence works its way to the top. The person who can talk the loudest ends up that's sort of the received wisdom that everyone ends up with. And you can go on there and everyone will be talking about one thing and one way to do it and one way to record drums, and you think, man, you're missing out on the creative process. So all those rules are best thrown out the window. Learn them, then throw them out the window, and then make your own way.
Somebody saying, I play cello,
Cool.
sax and clarinet. What's the best tech for me to be using?
Not a recording studio. Well, what I mean is not a modern recording studio, because they're all dead. They're designed to be small, dead rooms with no ambience, and natural instruments require natural rooms. I think you'll probably get a better result in your lounge than in a recording studio. That's just my honest view on those things.
So whoever plays the cello, sorry to interrupt, whoever plays the cello, have you ever heard of a guy called Arthur Russell? Who's the cello player? Have you heard of Arthur Russell? Google Arthur Russell. A guy who got into the disco scene, I think in the 70s, but was a cello player, to what I believe, and he recorded a secret album that he never let anyone hear until he died, and all his friends said, look, we've got to get this out. And I think it's called The Strange World of Arthur Russell. I'm sure that's the name of the album. It's him singing, playing this cello, and this cello is obviously going through a mad echo box, and it just sounds like nothing else you've ever heard. Just Google it, listen to it. It's out of this world. It's amazing. So yeah, I'd say shove it through some mad effects boxes if you can, or some mad effects plugins, and just hitting it or something, you get a very unusual sound.
Also, people like me, I mean, I always I'm just like, after a while, you just need a real instrument. So I spend all day programming all kinds of stuff, and I just wish that I actually had a trombonist here or a cellist or whatever. So I think you won't find a shortage of people who need your services if you play those instruments. If you actually want to use them, just record it and mess about with it.
Right.
Why not?
We when we did our last urban orchestra project, we were messing around with a cello player and double bass player, and we used a native instrument plugin called the Mouth, which you can just put a mic on anything, and you can tell it kind of what key you want it to be in, and it will take the sound that's coming from a live instrument and turn it into synth sounds or layer sounds or drum sounds, and also output MIDI. And it's a mad bit of software, amazing bit of software, and does very much what in some cases a Chaos Pad or something will do, does similar kinds of things. But that's a nice bit of software that's relatively cheap, sort of 50 quid mark, that you can do an awful lot with. Maybe Ian's this is your area, is what's coming next. What's coming next in the world of music technology? But I'd also like that to open that to everyone. Is like, what's the thing that hasn't been invented yet that you need, that you're waiting for?
Can I go last on this one?
I'll say the next thing we need is a way to stop piracy. Not completely stop piracy, but a way to stop it from completely ruining careers. I think as soon as the film industry get on it, they will come up with some sort of technology to stop it.
Yeah, I'd say. Sorry, I'd say if we could find a way for people that do download plugins, software, we've all done it, I'm sure. Music, I've not done the whole finding torrents for albums and stuff, because I know so many people that have not taken up a day job because they want to make music for a living, and they've desperately tried to put in £1,000 to press up some vinyl to get it sold. So sure enough, I might use YouTube to hear someone's track, but I will damn well go and buy it. If I really like it, I want a physical copy of that thing, because I think we need to realise that I'm not saying all people that make music are poor and are really struggling, but it becomes a bit of a lifestyle, and it does take over your life when you do need to give it a lot of time. And
what happens is that record labels can't afford to invest in anything interesting, anything other than broad appeal. So for the next until piracy is sorted out, we will just get broad appeal music on the radio. Even indie stations like Radio 6, it is still the same sort of band that you've been hearing for the last 10 years.
Agreed.
And I don't think we will get the next big thing until they can make some money out of it.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, you can do music for love, but you won't. It won't be on everyone's CD player. Well, not CD player. What am I talking about? What's that?
The problem with like the argument against piracy, I always think, is that the people who are into piracy are like hipsters, and the people who are against piracy are like people in suits. And it's kind of, I personally think that argument's been lost. And I think that it's actually about providing a legal alternative that is easier to use than piracy. It's got a wider range of music than you can get illegally. You know, because actually, since streaming has come online legally, piracy has gone down something like 30% in terms of the number of tracks downloaded.
It's true, but the revenue
is not enough. But you see, I think that music is more and more part of people's lives. It's used in more and more contexts, and it's actually about having a mass. You know, genuine, because Spotify, for example, I think worldwide there's only 20 million people who pay for streaming services.
It just needs to be more widely adopted.
Yeah, and so it needs to be like an ultra, mass thing, and everything is monetized on a small scale, but it adds up to enough. Spotify...
Yeah. If the whole world were using Spotify, artists to be getting paid the money they deserve.
Exactly, because like Spotify say, well, we pay the same amount per listener as Radio 1. And my answer to that is, well, yeah, but you haven't got any listeners as Radio 1, and so it has to be a streaming solution that's got as many people, and I think it will be free to use, and I think it will be included in every broadband package, every mobile phone package, and with 4G you'll be able to get it in your car, you'll be able to get it, everywhere in your house, on your mobile.
I think personally this is
some music.
Not that I want to change the direction of discussion at all, because this is a really, really interesting topic, and it's really important to all of us. But in terms of creativity, it's a separate conversation, and when it comes down to actual like music making tools, which is what we've been discussing in the first half, I think that's the first thing that sprung into my mind when you asked that question, as opposed to piracy and things like that. Because
that's what I heard you say as well, but it's funny how we all went for the...
Yeah, I instantly thought of it because... Yeah. I'd love to be sitting in my solid gold floating mansion right now instead of...
And I'm sure everyone thinks you are.
In terms of cool...
Somebody asked me what it's like to be a millionaire.
You're a gear slut, so what do you want next?
Well, I think that... this is just my own personal view, I suppose, is that there is still no replacement for certain analog tools, and everyone's in the computer, and if you go online, everyone's talking about the LA2A, the 1176, all these things, and they actually haven't been replaced. But I think it's about having certain analog bits that you can put into the digital world. So like they talk about it as the front end. So you plug your mic into an expensive thing, and it's the same analog thing people were using 50 years ago, but it goes into a computer. I think more and more of that high quality thing. When I want people to be making China. I want someone in China to rip off those things and then put a FireWire cable in the back, so I can just plug it into my computer and have an amazing Neve preamp. And you just use it in Logic and not have to have a massive desk or whatever, but for it to be affordable, because these things are still £3,000 each.
So you see the kind of the professional studio being scaled down so that someone at home so that there's a lower barrier to entry, or a lower kind of a more affordable kind of professional solution, and the studio's being scaled down from massive consoles into small affordable bits of kit that allow someone to spend less and make the same.
Well, the industry seems to be going that way. It is more and more people in bedrooms and bands recording themselves.
The home
and having desks that cost more than houses.
I know we're close to it. I know we're close to it with a lot of the keyboard controllers, but I've always fantasized about having a controller that whatever keyboard plugin you select on the screen of your laptop or your computer or whatever, say you had like an LED display screen over the top of the whole keyboard. So say you want it to be a Roland Jupiter 8 or whatever, all above this touch screen would become all those parameters of the Jupiter 8, exactly as it was laid out.
Like a Sound Toys mixing desk that looks a bit like that. I think that could be done.
Yeah, I'm sure, but that'd be amazing, because I feel that I want to. When I'm mucking around, I hate going into little bloody menus and going, oh, there's the LFO and there's the modulation. I want to be like, oh, wow.
I thought that'd be nice for guitar pedals as well.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
have like a blank guitar pedal.
Yeah, imagine that.
I think they might make
I don't think that'd be far away.
No,
I have to say, though, you can do almost anything with the existing technology that exists in the world.
You could probably put two of those together in front of it.
Yeah, probably right.
Keyboard and...
Yeah. What are you going to surprise us with? What do you know that we don't know?
Oh, gosh. To be honest...
Could you make this is the thing, you know?
Yeah.
Do you know SSL? Is it AWS 900 or something? Which is this amazing mixing console, which is analog and digital, and it's all SSL quality and everything. But it controls Pro Tools, and it's if you can make one of those for £100, you'll sell quite a lot. 16 or 24 channels.
I did like your idea of having a really professional preamp. For example, this is a microphone preamp. Is just a bit of electronic circuitry. You plug your microphone into it, and it makes the signal, amplifies the signal in a nice way, basically. And you can pay up to $2,500 for one of these things. That's before you've even bought the microphone or to send it wherever it's going. And you're talking about putting a computer connection on the back of that so that you can buy that and then have a direct route into your machine.
Do they not?
That's a cool idea.
They exist, but
there are things similar to that, but usually the high-end equipment is standalone. It's on its own. It doesn't connect to a computer, and then you need the thing after that, and the thing after that, and the thing after that, and that's how all the costs mount up. So I think people do want to do things more affordably. I mean, we're looking to the future in terms of technologies and what's coming next in terms of technologies, and there's a lot of things on the horizon, and it takes a long time for existing technologies to be displaced. And there's a talk that I watched. It was a TED talk by a guy called Chris Anderson, and he talks about the sort of the 4 stages that technology goes through. And there's a big peak when everyone gets excited, but we're still a long way off this technology ever actually reaching us. And then everyone all the excitement dies down. You go into this, what they call the trough of disillusionment, where no one really knows what's happening.
That's where I am just now.
It's not, it's not around. You don't know if it's coming. It's too expensive or whatever. And then eventually, if it's successful, it picks up and comes in. So we're trying to obviously look at new technologies. One of the main ones is Thunderbolt technology, and that's it's basically replaces the PCIe is a part of a computer that where you would send your audio to, but Apple have actually removed that from their computer and put on this Thunderbolt port that was developed by Intel, and that then allows them to lower the cost of their hardware, so that hardware peripheral manufacturers are obviously putting that PCIe technology in their peripherals, and Thunderbolt just allows for a lot more data to go into the computer. So what we're trying to work out is how could the latest technologies develop people that make music, and there's 2 ways of doing it. You either think up the product, or you think of the technology and how that could fit into a product to benefit the music maker, and it's kind of leaves you scratching your head. You know,
if you're thinking about sort of what do people actually need, I just think I don't know what we need that we haven't got. I think we're pretty spoiled for choice in music technology nowadays.
The thing that I'd like to change in the world of technology is wires, and it's wires that do my head in. I have a slight strange love-hate relationship with wires. I find plugging in things to mixing desks incredibly relaxing and almost zen as a process, but on a stage live.
Yeah, if you could have a little like a radio XLR or Bluetooth XLR on the end of everything with a little number on it,
and if the kit would just remember what it needed to do, so that I didn't have to remember how to plug it in, I just put it down. And it'd go, I'll plug myself into the mixer, thanks. And I'll come back in 5 minutes and it's all there, it's all done. That's what I want.
And make you a coffee.
but I don't see
wireless technology will happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it already does, but...
Just not for...
Or just one wire, Just use the same wire for everything. Just one wire to rule them all. Apart from, right here, right now, where in the world is the best place for the music technology scene, in your opinions? Apart from Reading, maybe.
For the music technology scene, or music.
Hasn't the internet kind of made everywhere equally the same? I recently did a project and mixed an artist from Argentina, mixed his whole album without even meeting him. I don't even know what he looks like. He transferred the money to my bank. I uploaded the songs to him. So kind of place doesn't matter, I don't think.
What I would say is that we have a very distorted view of everything musical in the UK, because we consider ourselves to be better than everyone else, like the centre of music worldwide. Everyone must look to us. We don't listen to music in any other language other than English, and we have one major new music radio station. We used to have one new music magazine, which doesn't really exist anymore, and that creates massive trends, like based around,
and tribes as well.
Based around, like, for example, dubstep, like that was like, if you could do that, you could get on the radio for like 3 years. And it's just unbelievable. There was a time, and it creates things like that for a time. You have like, and all the record companies are like, well, that got played on Radio 1. There's only 15 songs can get played on Radio 1, on the playlist. And so I just think go anywhere else and you find all kinds of interesting things.
Less like that if you're in the States. Like,
and if you go to I don't know, if you go and play in Germany and like I'm shocked to play like a seated gig and people like arrive before you play. They don't go to the bar, they don't talk, and just sit and then they clap at the end and they enjoy it and they buy a CD and go home. And I was like, they're not sitting at the back going, it's kind of got that kind of early 80s electro vibe, but the singer reminds me of Debbie Harry and all of this kind of, it's just like, they're just like music fans.
Yeah.
So
I'd say from electronic music, in real answer to what your question is, for me, Berlin is massively on the scene. There's tons of you hear of all these, not all these, but you hear an awful lot of Detroit, people from Detroit moving across to Berlin, people from Texas, Washington, Detroit, Canada, Windsor, places like that. They all seem to be going to. There's a huge scene in Berlin. And if you haven't been to Berlin and you like techno sort of stuff, there's some amazing clubs there.
Oh, I don't know. I've done a couple of gigs in Berlin, and the VIP area had more people in it than the actual gig. Oh, okay. And everyone looked like they're from the future with silver.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough.
It was more fashion than sort of love
uber
music.
trendy.
So one other sort of serious answer might be that sort of thinking a bit about music distribution as well is Africa, which is obviously a whole load of countries, but they had 4G before the UK, and it didn't replace broadband because they didn't have broadband. It replaced nothing, and suddenly you're going to be able to. Well, they're going to be able to access music from everywhere else in the world, and they're going to be able to distribute it amongst themselves and to us. And I think there's going to be more kind of pollination, like between European music and music there, and also places like China, obviously rapidly kind of more and more industrialised, and that could be an interesting thing.